All right, welcome to my session for the CET experience this year. Change your language, change your mindset. My name is Kristen Murphy, and I'm a strategic design specialist at Workspace in Des Moines, Iowa, and I've been in the industry about 20 years. First, here's the agenda. I'll go through a little bit of my experience, and then we'll just touch briefly on background on emotional intelligence. And then we're going to cover the four paradigms. And then I'm also going to talk through what key events and response chain is as it relates to paradigms. Oh, and as an FYI, if I didn't make clear in the summary of this session, we are actually not going to be opening up CET at all in this session. All right, so here's a little bit of background on where this information comes from. So I was lucky to go through a leadership course through the Results Group, which is a company based out of West Des Moines, Iowa. And this is a portion of the information that was shared in a series of courses around emotional intelligence. And one of the things that I did want to share is this piece of information that psychologist and author Daniel Goleman shared in his book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. As you can see, it's a fairly old-ish book, written in 1995, but still even more so, probably more relevant today than it was in 1995. But the thing that I wanted to highlight is he had mentioned and said that there are four parts to EQ, or emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. So the reason that I'm kind of giving some of this background and telling you, hey, this is information relating to emotional intelligence, is that understanding paradigms fills parts of this self-awareness and self-management aspects of knowing thyself. How do you operate in key moments, or um, moments where you're in a position to make a choice? That's what I'm defining as a key moment. Which paradigm are you operating in when you make those decisions? So learning all of this information for myself in this series of courses really helped me move forward with my team as their leader, and helped me to grow professionally and personally as well. So by the end of this hour, my hope is that you'll learn a bit about the power of the language that you use, and also learn about paradigms and response chains to become more self-aware and have a renewed sense of empowerment. This experience for me was very much a rebuild and reframe for the things that I thought were out of my control, or the things that I felt like I was the victim around, versus actually having more choice and control than I thought I did, which I'll talk more about at the end of the session. So this is a little activity time. So if you've got a piece of paper and a pen, I'd like you to take 2 to 3 minutes. Just, this does not have to be a long exercise at all, but take some time to think about the things that you have going on in the coming week. So things that are going to be taking your time at home or at work, as in what's waiting for you when you get home. So since this is a recording, just hit pause, find that paper, find that pen, and write down these things. And then we're going to come back to it at the end of the session. So now that you've written those things down, odds are that when you take a look at what you've written, it might possibly contain the words have to, I need to, I must. And like I said, we're going to revisit this at the end of the hour. Uh, but now we're going to take some time and talk about the four paradigms. Okay, so let's define what I mean when I say paradigm. What is this thing? So with a short definition and a brief definition, really it's in a broad sense refers to our filters, which are made up of our core beliefs. So as you can imagine, yourself versus your coworker versus your boss, et cetera, et cetera. In this instance that I've got outlined here is that all three of these individuals have very different backgrounds, very different histories, life experiences. And these filters all fall into these four paradigms, which we'll talk about next. So the four paradigms are fear, duty, achievement, and integrity. And we're going to walk through each one of these in detail. And I've also got a little movie clip or a TV clip to kind of further talk about each one of these paradigms. So we're going to start with fear. And when we take a look at your mindset when you're in the fear paradigm, you're only okay when you're playing it safe. And in key moments, remember, those are moments where you are in a position to make a choice. In these moments, people are against you. So, diving into it a little further and a little bit deeper, when you are operating in this fear paradigm, the language that we use often reflects apprehension, it reflects caution, and it also has a tendency to focus on the potential negative outcomes. Kind of further explains, I'm only okay when I play it safe. There could be some horrible things that happen if I don't do X, Y, or Z. So when someone's operating in this paradigm, some of the examples of what you might hear from someone in fear paradigm is, I don't think we should pursue that project. It seems too risky. We need to get approval from everyone to avoid any issues. Or let's not invite them. They might not get along with everybody. But really, the overlying mindset here is, if I don't do X, Y, or Z, something bad's going to happen. I'm going to get fired. This person is going to think I'm bad at my job. Um, if I miss my kid's baseball game, what my kid's going to think that I don't love them. Those are all examples of someone that is operating in the fear paradigm. So to set up this video, so I'm hoping that you guys recognize most or all of these movies slash TV series. So this is a TV series called Schitt's Creek. So I'll provide you with background of what we're about to watch before each one, just in case you're not familiar. But this video is of the character David Rose from the TV show Schitt's Creek. So in this scene, he's talking to his best friend Stevie about a moment that he had early in the day in an effort to acquire a business loan. So let's watch. So I forgot to mention, if the audio doesn't come through with the video, I have a link down there at the bottom. You can always just paste it into your web browser and watch the video from there. But so here's some additional background for David to consider in the context of this conversation with his friend. So his history with starting his own business, as he would find out later in life, was only successful due to his parents' money and connection. In other words, his parents had paid for his patronage. So, embarking on a new entrepreneurship, he's plagued with feelings of fear and failure as he ventures to do this on his own. So he even admits that this person did not, in fact, say directly his business was going to fail. But in that moment, he was operating out of that fear paradigm. So he was saying this person was insinuating that his business was a failure, but really it was David himself that was insinuating that language and reinterpreting what the person was saying, as in, that's his filters playing into responding to those comments. Next, we're going to talk about the duty paradigm. So, overarching mindset here is that I'm only okay when we play by the rules. So, in key moments, this moments where we're in a position to make a decision about something, I'm not okay unless people like me, which is based on what I do. So, when you're operating within the duty paradigm, the language that we often use reflects a sense of obligation, responsibility. We got to follow the rules. We have to be normal, go with the norm, go with the flow, ethical standards. So, some examples of what you might hear from someone who might be in the duty paradigm: we have to follow the process and meet our deadlines. We need to comply with the company's policies and procedures. I need to fulfill my commitments to my family and friends. And actually, there was just an instance of me observing my husband being in the duty paradigm last night when my son was playing in a baseball game. And we get halfway to the ballpark and we notice that he's wearing the wrong hat. It's not his team hat, it's a different hat. And my mindset was, it's fine. It's a hat. It'll be fine. It won't change how he plays. It's going to be okay. Uh, but my husband, he is in the duty paradigm a lot and was insistent that he has to have his team hat. We have to go back to the house and get it. And so that's what we did. But that's an example of someone who is living in a duty paradigm. He has to have this. We have to go back. We have to do it this way. We cannot do it this way. It has to be done this way. So let's take a look at someone else who is hanging out in the duty paradigm. If you recognize him or not, this is Cameron, who's one of the characters in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he is Ferris's best friend. So to set this video up, Cameron is home from school sick, and his friend Ferris has decided to pretend to be sick to skip school and has called his friend up and asked him to pick him up in his car since Ferris doesn't have one. So let's watch Cameron and let's listen to his language. All right, so let's consider some background Cameron has that's influencing his behaviors and language. So Cameron's history, as he says, if he doesn't go, Ferris will keep calling him and calling him and calling him. Cameron has a history of following the rules and staying out of trouble. So this is in part of how he was brought up, specifically by his dad. So he's wrestling between what he knows is wrong for himself, which is, against his ethical standards, and which is, of course, going out when he's homesick from school, on top of his long history of seeking approval from his father and his best friend pestering him until he agrees to go. So if he drives to get his friend will be happy and he'll like him. And he also won't continue to call and call. The third paradigm that we're going to talk about is achievement. So with the achievement paradigm, your mindset is that I'm only okay when I'm winning. And in key moments, we wonder, do I look good to others? So when we're operating within this achievement paradigm, the language that we use often reflects a focus on goals, personal goals, personal success, personal growth, and measurable outcomes. So some things that you might hear someone who's operating in the achievement paradigm might be, I successfully completed the project ahead of schedule. I have to win this bid in order to hit my goal this year. Or something like, I need to make more money than I did last year to feel like I'm progressing in my career. So these are all examples of someone who is living in the achievement paradigm. I'm only okay when I'm winning. So with this video that I have here, I hope most of you recognize it. It's from Little Giants, an oldie but a goodie. This is Spike, who's holding the refrigerator, and his dad. And here's some background to this scene, is that Spike and his dad just moved into town, and the local football coach is recruiting for his Pee-wee football team. So let's watch Spike's dad's interaction with Coach. All right, so sports is an easy one to draw on to see individuals who are living in the achievement paradigm. So with Spike's dad's mindset is that performance matters when I can show others that I'm the best. And he then is using his son to show that he is the best. If my son's the best, Coach sees son as the best, then I have also achieved the best. So the last paradigm that we're going to talk through is integrity. So the integrity paradigm is an overarching mindset of even when it's not okay, everything's fine. It's okay. It'll be fine. So in key moments, that these are looked at as opportunities to grow and learn from. So when we're in the integrity paradigm, the language that we're using reflects honesty, authenticity, ethical principles, and it is aligned with our personal values. So someone who is in this paradigm, some examples of what you might hear from someone. I want to be transparent with our clients about the project's progress. I believe in taking responsibility for any mistakes we make. And lastly, I choose to act in a way that aligns with my values. So integrity can look different for different individuals. It doesn't always mean the same thing from person to person. So I have a coworker, and she's told me that it's okay for me to use her in my storytelling. But she chooses to stay at our company. And she acknowledges that. She sees that. She says, I'm choosing to be a salesperson, and I'm choosing to sell furniture in particular. And she's also admitted to me that she hates furniture. Also, she enjoys the benefits of working at our company. She knows she's not 100% where she wants to be, but she's okay with that. So let's take a look at this video. Hopefully you recognize this little clip. And this is the last scene we'll set up here. The person that I'm highlighting in particular is Junior in the movie Cool Runnings. So Junior, if you're not familiar with the movie, Junior is the character with the sweater and the ball cap. To give some background, Junior and his teammate are in Calgary, Canada for the Winter Olympics. In this scene, or right before this scene, Junior was bullied by someone at the bar and does nothing to stand up to his bully. His teammate and friend on the right, Yul Brynner, who's with him and sees the bullying happen, drags Junior into the bathroom to have a talk with him. Let's watch it. I love this scene. It's too bad I can't show you the whole movie because you can't see the progression of this character throughout the movie. There's this struggle between a relationship between he and his father. And so I wasn't able to find the scene in the movie where he has a conversation with his father later on in the movie where his dad is in the elevator and he's come to get Junior and from all the way from Jamaica and bring him back home. So I couldn't find that video, but I'll just kind of give you a little script of what happens in that scene. But this scene here that I've just showed you, Yul Brynner gives Junior a different perspective to consider. So one where Junior is in control and has the power to make his own choices. So prior to this conversation and this revelation and this freedom to be himself more, he was very much living in the duty paradigm of, I have to do these things this way. I must do things in a certain way so that my father's happy. And certainly, probably elements of being in an achievement paradigm as well. If I don't do these things, well, that might be a bit of fear too. He might have been in all three of these paradigms all at once. But when his father comes to him and they're having this conversation across the elevator, his Junior looks at his dad and says, "Father, when you look at me, what do you see?" And his dad responds with, "I don't have time for games." And so his Junior says again, "Tell me what you see, please." And his dad says, "All right, I'll tell you what I see. I see a lost little boy who's lucky to have a father who knows what's best for him." And Junior comes back and says, "No, no, 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 no. You don't know what's best for me, Father. I'm not a lost little boy, Father. I'm a man and I'm an Olympian and I'm staying right here." I have no idea why that's not on YouTube somewhere because, they have everything. But anyway, um, it's just an absolutely wonderful, you can just, there's some fear in there as he's delivering that to his father, but there's certainly this newfound sense of, I'm empowered. I have made this choice. I have decided what's best for me, and I choose my own path, which is absolutely wonderful. But as I mentioned, all of these paradigms, we're not just in any one of these at one time. We can be in more than one of these in one moment. So I talked about Junior prior to finding his way to the integrity paradigm, very much living in duty, in achievement, and a little bit of fear as well. But if we think back to Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, he was also primarily in the duty paradigm, but there was also a bit of fear playing there as well. So if we think back on the language, if I don't do this, he'll keep calling and calling me and calling me. You can sense that that gives him anxiety. He's getting anxious just thinking about that idea. There's this fear that he's going to keep calling him and keep calling him and pestering him. And it is okay to be in any of these paradigms. And certainly from day to day, things can change. And even in a singular day, as I think about even our own cadence of the day, we come in, we have to get these things done. We have these deadlines. It's got to get done by this time. So we go through that a little bit every day too. And it's okay. It's okay to be in these paradigms, but it's so much better to be living in the integrity paradigm. And when you're in that paradigm, you can feel like you have a better balance. You can have more empowerment around what you're doing throughout the course of the day and just be at peace. Everything's not okay, but it's going to be okay. So I want you to take some time to think about which paradigm that you're in. Which one do you operate in most day to day? Do you feel like you're in one versus another? Do you feel like you're all over the place? Do you feel like you're hanging out in the integrity paradigm? So just take a little bit of time and think about that. Pause the video if you want to. And in key moments, which paradigm am I responding from? Am I like David? So when I have a key moment, I respond from fear. Let's talk a little bit more about what a response chain looks like. So with a response chain, we have a starting point, which is a key moment. And in David's case, remember he's operating out of the fear paradigm. His key moment is that he applied for a business loan and they told him that he needed to provide more detail in the application and to come back when he did. So this is a key moment. So this key moment is an event or a situation that presents a challenge to us and demands a response. So after this key moment occurs, David, the next step for him is that he's going to interpret that moment through his paradigms. So as we look at his interpretation in that moment, is that he's operating in the fear paradigm. And because his past business was a success only because of his parents, he's fearful that it might happen again. So once he interprets that moment, he's going to assign a meaning to it. So the meaning is that this guy that he talked to about his business loan must think that his business is going to fail. And that makes him upset. So after we assign that meaning, the next thing that we do or go through is that we experience feelings and then we behave. We do something or say something. And in David's case, the situation made him upset. I can't believe that this guy thinks my business is going to fail. And he leaves the office. The last portion of the response chain is our pathway. And our pathway can be in two different directions. It can go in a positive direction or it can go in a negative direction. So when we, again, take David's experience into account, his pathway was leaning in the negative direction because he decided to go talk to his friend about how this person said that his business was going to fail. So when we take a look at the first portion of that response chain, those first three things that happen, we interpret through our paradigms, we assign it a meaning, we experience our feelings, and we behave. It seems like that would be a course of something that would happen over minutes, whereas in fact it happens in a very short amount of time, in seconds. So one more thing before I continue on, as I forgot to mention here, that the beginning parts to the response chain, again, they happen in a matter of seconds, and the interpretation part can be almost natural, as it's based on our paradigms, our core beliefs. So it's almost a go-to thought for us. It's like it's automatic. The interpretation is the spin that we put on an event. And the spin is driven by our core beliefs. So if we reimagine the key moment and we say that David was actually in the integrity paradigm in this key moment, it's the same key moment. He applied for a business loan. And then they said, hey, it looks like you don't have a very solid idea of what your business is going to be. So come back when you do, and you have more of this information filled out on the form. So if David were operating in the integrity paradigm, what could his response look like differently? So some things that he could come back and say, for example, or at least think through, would be, you know what, this person's right. I did leave a lot of those questions blank on the application form. Acknowledge the truth of the moment. And then also, hey, you know what? I do have a good business plan in my head, and it's worth taking the time to outline on my form so that this person knows that it's going to be a success and will approve my loan. So, quite a different behavior outlook and mindset outlook from operating within fear versus operating with integrity. So now that we've learned about the four paradigms, we've learned about key moments and response chain, what I want to do now is go back to the exercise at the beginning that I had you do, which was write down some of those things that you have coming up in the next week. Some things at home, some things at work, and challenge you to ask, what if we change our language? So what I want you to do is take a few minutes and find your language where you wrote down, I have to, or I need to. I want you to find that language and then cross it out and change that to any one of these, which I want to, or I choose to, or I choose not to. I would like to, I get to, I don't want to. And I want you to read it to yourself. So make these changes and then reread those statements or say them out loud. And think about how it feels different. I have to go to my son's baseball game. I get to go to my son's baseball game. I choose to go to my son's baseball game. One of the points is if it doesn't feel right and it's not in alignment with your values, you can find your so what, now what, new direction. What do I want to do about it? So for Junior here from Cool Runnings, he was a great example of don't want to language, choose not to language. He didn't want to follow in his father's footsteps. He didn't want his dad to see him as a little boy anymore. He wanted to forge his own path, make his own relationships, and find his own successes. For me, when I was a manager and also doing the work, I was finding I was prioritizing the work and not my team. In in reflecting on that and in going through these sessions, what dawned on me was the language I was using in essence was I want to place my work first and prioritize my team second. And in reflecting on that, that's not what I wanted. I wanted my team to be my number one priority. So my so what, now what moment was getting a plan together and going to my leadership to get 100% out of the work so that I could focus my time and the future direct and focus on the future direction of the department. And it didn't happen overnight. In fact, it almost took 2 years after deciding to do things differently that I was able to fulfill that new direction. But had I not taken this information and sought to imagine how could things be different? How can I spend more time in the integrity paradigm? So my challenge to you is, what will be your so what now what moment? If you could do something differently, what would you choose? And if you feel like it's not something that you can tackle just by yourself, who could help you with making that happen? For me, it was my mentor. Um, this series of courses that I had gone to, it was over a calendar year, but I had been with this mentor for about three. And she just was super instrumental in helping me discover, finding ways to approach these key moments differently, and in ones that were more in alignment with the things that I truly wanted to see and get done. So if you don't have a mentor and you want one, how could you make that happen for yourself? So in closing, and this is what I'm going to leave you guys with, is, to a large degree, the quality of our lives can be determined by how we handle our key moments. When we make a conscious choice to examine our paradigms and the connection they have to the meaning we assign to the event, we give ourselves an opportunity to be more positive. We give ourselves a chance to control our lives rather than being just a pawn. And life just becomes so much more enjoyable. And my hope is that you enjoyed this session. If you want to know more, I have my email up here on the slide. Um, Again, I have my resources labeled there again in the lower left-hand corner. And then if you want to get your CEU credits, that you can scan that QR code with your phone. But thank you so much for watching this recording, and hope to see a lot of you here in October this year, and can't wait. Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to view this session.